You wake up in the morning, take your Parkinson's medication as usual, but a few hours later, you notice that the stiffness in your muscles is worse than usual. Your hands seem slower, your steps more shuffling, and that sense of balance you so cherish seems to have disappeared. It feels like your body is betraying you, as if the medication has suddenly lost its effectiveness. What if I told you that this phenomenon may have nothing to do with the progression of the disease, but rather with vitamin supplements you're taking with the best of intentions? Vitamins, often celebrated as essential for health, can become true silent saboteurs for those living with Parkinson's. Today, I'm going to reveal 2 specific vitamins that, while beneficial for the general population, may be secretly accelerating your muscle stiffness, compromising your balance, and drastically decreasing the effectiveness of your medication. I'm talking about knowledge that's rarely shared in quick doctor's appointments, but that has the power to completely transform your response to treatment. My patients who have identified and adjusted their intake of these vitamins report surprising improvements in symptoms, with some even being able to reduce their medication doses under medical supervision. Imagine regaining some of your mobility, experiencing fewer episodes of freezing, and experiencing longer periods where the medication actually works as intended. I'm not talking about miraculous promises, but about science applied to the daily lives of those living with Parkinson's. At the end of this video, you'll have precise information on how to identify whether these vitamins are hindering your treatment, and more importantly, practical strategies for adjusting your supplementation without compromising your overall health. This knowledge could be the missing piece in your treatment puzzle. Before we begin, I'd like to know where you're watching from today. Leave a comment below, and feel free to share your experience with supplements and vitamins. Your participation is invaluable to our community. Before we continue with our next topic, I want to extend a special invitation. If you or someone you love is facing the daily challenges of Parkinson's and is looking for reliable, science-based information explained in a simple and straightforward way, this channel was created especially for you. We regularly share practical strategies, scientific discoveries, and tips that have helped hundreds of people live better despite Parkinson's. Click the subscribe button now. It's completely free, so you won't miss any content that can make a significant difference in your quality of life. Now let's dive into the first crucial topic for those living with Parkinson's. The first vitamin we need to discuss is vitamin B6, also known as pyridoxine. Among the many nutrients we consume daily, vitamin B6 stands out as one of the most problematic when it comes to Parkinson's treatment with levodopa. But how exactly does vitamin B6 interfere with your treatment? Let's explore this fascinating and troubling mechanism together. Levodopa, the main drug used to treat Parkinson's, needs to be converted into dopamine in the brain to exert its therapeutic effect. This is where the role of vitamin B6 comes in. This vitamin is an essential cofactor for an enzyme called AADC, aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylase, responsible for converting levodopa into dopamine. This seems positive at first glance, right? The problem arises because this conversion can occur prematurely before levodopa reaches the brain. When you consume excess vitamin B6, whether through supplements or foods very rich in this nutrient, you are essentially accelerating the conversion of levodopa into dopamine in the blood and other body tissues, where dopamine is of no use in controlling Parkinson's symptoms. It's as if your precious medication is being wasted before it reaches its final destination. Studies show that high doses of vitamin B6 can reduce the effectiveness of levodopa by up to 50%. This explains why many people taking multivitamins or specific B-complex supplements often report worsening symptoms without understanding the cause. You've probably experienced this confusing situation. You're following your treatment correctly, but suddenly your symptoms worsen inexplicably. Stiffness increases, tremors may intensify, and that feeling of slowness in movement seems more pronounced. Often, this worsening coincides with the start of a well-intentioned vitamin supplement, perhaps recommended to combat fatigue or improve overall health. But that doesn't mean you should avoid vitamin B6 altogether. In fact, it's essential for protein metabolism, neurotransmitter production, and proper immune function. The most effective strategy is to carefully manage your intake. Most neurologists specializing in Parkinson's recommend that patients taking levodopa maintain their daily vitamin B6 intake at moderate levels, ideally not exceeding 15 milligrams per day, including foods and supplements. In practice, this means avoiding high-dose B6 supplements and exercising caution with multivitamins, always checking the specific pyridoxine content in the nutritional label. If you feel you need a vitamin supplement, there are special formulations for people with Parkinson's that contain safe amounts of B6. As for foods, there's no need to completely eliminate B6-rich foods from your diet, but rather consume them in moderation and ideally not at the same time as your medication. Foods particularly rich in vitamin B6 include poultry, fish, potatoes, chickpeas, bananas, and fortified cereals. Many of my patients report significant improvements in medication effectiveness when they adjust their B6 intake. A study published in the Journal of Neurology showed that Parkinson's patients who strictly controlled their intake of this vitamin experienced an improvement of up to 25% in the duration of levodopa's effects. But what if you're already taking high-dose B6 supplements? Talk to your neurologist before stopping any supplementation. In some cases, it may be necessary to temporarily adjust your levodopa dose while your body adapts to the changes in B6 levels. Remember that any medication changes should be made exclusively under medical supervision. Before we move on to the second problematic vitamin, I want to open up space for something extremely valuable: your own experience.
Have you noticed any changes in your Parkinson's symptoms after starting a vitamin supplement? Have you noticed that your medication seemed less effective at certain times without understanding why? Sometimes the most important connections are made by patients themselves, not by doctors or researchers. Share with us in the comments. You can simply copy and complete the sentence. After I started taking supplement X, I noticed that.
Your personal observation may seem like a mere detail to you, but it could be exactly the clue someone else needs to understand what's happening with their own treatment. I've seen patients make crucial discoveries after reading accounts of experiences similar to yours. Let's create a space together to exchange practical knowledge that complements scientific information. Now let's continue with the second vitamin that may be interfering with your symptom control. The second vitamin that may be silently sabotaging your Parkinson's treatment is high-dose vitamin E. Although vitamin E is celebrated for its antioxidant properties and is often recommended for neurological protection, excessive consumption through supplementation can create significant problems for people with Parkinson's. You may be wondering, how can an antioxidant that supposedly protects neurons worsen my symptoms? The answer involves multiple mechanisms that science is still fully unraveling. First, very high doses of vitamin E can interfere with blood clotting, increasing the risk of small cerebral hemorrhages that, while individually imperceptible, can collectively affect brain circuits already compromised by Parkinson's. People with Parkinson's often already take medications such as aspirin or other anticoagulants to prevent cardiovascular problems, a common comorbidity. Adding high doses of vitamin E to this situation can overly potentiate the anticoagulant effect, creating an unnecessary risk. Furthermore, recent studies suggest that high concentrations of vitamin E may interact with certain neurotransmitters and alter the activity of enzymes important for the metabolism of dopamine and levodopa itself. A study published in the Journal of Neurochemistry showed that very high concentrations of alpha-tocopherol, the most common form of vitamin E in supplements, can interfere with the activity of COMT, catechol O-methyltransferase, a crucial enzyme for dopamine metabolism. Interestingly, this interaction can have opposing effects depending on individual genetics and the stage of the disease, creating unpredictable results. Research shows that vitamin E doses above 400 IU daily may begin to produce these interfering effects in susceptible individuals. The problem is compounded when we consider that many brain health or anti-aging supplements contain doses of 800 IU, 1000 IU, or even higher, based on the premise that more is better. This may explain why some people with Parkinson's report worsening balance, increased postural instability, and more frequent episodes of freezing after starting high-dose vitamin E supplementation or concentrated antioxidant formulas. The safest strategy is to obtain vitamin E primarily through dietary sources such as olive oil, almonds, sunflower seeds, avocados, and leafy greens, which provide natural and balanced forms of this nutrient. If supplementation is deemed necessary, most Parkinson's experts recommend not exceeding 200-400 IU daily, always under medical supervision. The effects of adjusting vitamin E intake are not as immediate as those of vitamin B6, but many of my patients report gradual improvements in stability and balance after 3 to 4 weeks of dose adjustments. For those already taking high doses of vitamin E, it is important not to stop abruptly, but rather to consult with your neurologist
to develop a tapering plan, possibly with corresponding adjustments to your Parkinson's medication. Before we move on to practical recommendations, I want to create a moment of pause and reflection.
Is there a question about vitamin supplementation and Parkinson's that you've always wanted to ask but never found the right place to ask? Perhaps a question about specific interactions between your supplements and medications, or a question about conflicting recommendations you've received from different professionals. Know that this space is safe for all questions, without judgment or simplistic answers. Leave your question in the comments. You can simply copy and complete. My biggest question about vitamins and Parkinson's is, often, the same question is on the minds of dozens of other people silently following along. I promise that in the coming weeks, we will address the most frequently asked questions in specific videos, bringing up-to-date information based on scientific evidence, but explained in a clear and accessible way. Your question can help build a more informed and empowered community. Now let's move on to practical strategies for optimizing your supplementation. To help you put everything we've learned today into practice, I'll share 5 practical strategies that have worked exceptionally well for my patients. First, do a thorough audit of your supplements. Gather all the vitamin products you currently take, including multivitamins, B complexes, energy supplements, brain health formulas, and any others. Check labels carefully, specifically noting the amounts of vitamin B6, pyridoxine, and vitamin E, often listed as alpha-tocopherol or mixed tocopherols. Many people are surprised to discover they're inadvertently consuming much higher doses than they realized when they add up all the products. Second, keep a supplement and symptom diary. For at least 2 weeks, write down daily which supplements you took, at what times, and how you felt in terms of stiffness, tremor, balance, and response to medication. This record may reveal surprising patterns and connections that aren't immediately obvious. Third, consider safer substitutions. If you find you're consuming potentially problematic levels of B6 or vitamin E, talk to your doctor about alternatives. For example, for energy and neurological function, many of my patients benefit from supplements like coenzyme Q10 or PQQ, which don't interfere with levodopa. For antioxidant function, alpha-lipoic acid or resveratrol may be alternatives to high-dose vitamin E. Fourth, optimize the timing of supplementation. If you need to continue taking a supplement containing B6 or vitamin E for specific health reasons, take it at the time of day furthest away from your levodopa doses, ideally in the evening if most of your medication is taken during the day. Fifth, prioritize natural food sources of nutrients. Whole foods provide vitamins in more bioavailable forms and in synergistic combinations with other beneficial compounds. A diet rich in colorful fruits, a variety of vegetables, nuts, seeds, and whole grains will provide a full spectrum of nutrients in amounts rarely problematic for Parkinson's treatment. Implementing all these changes at once can be challenging, and that's not what I recommend. Start by auditing your supplements and keeping a symptom diary. This information will allow you and your doctor to make more informed decisions about next steps. Remember that any changes in supplementation should be discussed with your neurologist, especially if you've been taking supplements for a long time or at high doses. Now, let's address some frequently asked questions about vitamins and Parkinson's that are sure to arise after the information I've shared. If vitamin B6 is problematic, should I completely avoid foods rich in this nutrient? No, that would be counterproductive to your overall health. Vitamin B6 from food rarely reaches levels high enough to significantly interfere with levodopa. The bigger problem lies in concentrated supplementation. Continue consuming foods like bananas, poultry, fish, and legumes. Just avoid consuming them in large quantities at exactly the same times as your medication. Do I need tests to determine if I'm over or undersupplied? Yes, this can be very helpful. Before making any significant changes to your supplementation, talk to your doctor about blood tests to check your current levels of B vitamins and vitamin E. This will provide a more personalized approach. Some people may be deficient in certain nutrients and need carefully monitored supplementation, while others may have excessive levels. Are there vitamins or supplements specifically recommended for people with Parkinson's? Yes, there are. Coenzyme Q10 in moderate doses, 100 to 300 ml daily, has shown neuroprotective potential in some studies. Vitamin D is often recommended, as many people with Parkinson's are deficient, and adequate levels are associated with better muscle function and a lower risk of falls. Omega-3s may help with inflammation and overall brain health. Creatine has been studied for its potential to support muscle function. However, it's important to emphasize that no supplement should be seen as a cure or replacement for conventional medication. They are complements that can offer additional benefits when used appropriately. How long does it take to notice improvements after adjusting the intake of problematic vitamins? The answer varies by individual and the vitamin in question. For vitamin B6, many patients report improvements in medication effectiveness within 3 to 7 days after reducing intake to appropriate levels. For vitamin E, the effects are more gradual, usually becoming noticeable after 2 to 4 weeks, especially in areas such as balance and stability. Can I take vitamin C supplements? Yes. Vitamin C is generally safe for people with Parkinson's, although it is advisable not to take very high doses, above 1,000 milliliter, along with levodopa, as the acidity can affect the absorption of the medication. Ideally, separate the intake of vitamin C supplements from your medication by at least 30–60 minutes. For people with Parkinson's seeking to optimize their treatment and quality of life, understanding the interactions between vitamins and medication is truly transformative knowledge. By being aware of the potentially negative effects of high-dose vitamin B6 and vitamin E, you can avoid a silent saboteur of your treatment and experience a more consistent and effective response to your medication. As I mentioned at the beginning, my patients who identified and adjusted their intake of these vitamins report significant improvements in symptom control, with some even being able to reduce their medication doses under medical supervision. This translates into days with more mobility, fewer episodes of severe stiffness, better balance, and greater independence in daily activities. Most importantly, this knowledge restores a sense of control over your condition. Instead of passively accepting worsening symptoms as inevitable, you now have the tools to investigate whether nutritional factors may be contributing to the problem and know how to take action to correct them. Remember that every person with Parkinson's is unique. Individual genetics, disease stage, specific medication regimen, and other health conditions influence how your body responds to different nutrients. Hence the importance of a supplementation and symptom diary, and working in partnership with your neurologist. The journey with Parkinson's has its challenges, but knowledge like the one we share today represents small victories in the battle for a better quality of life and well-being. You've probably noticed how difficult it is to find specific information on how to optimize your daily Parkinson's treatment, especially content in Portuguese that truly understands the Brazilian reality. That's why our channel exists, to be that place where you find clear answers without complicated medical terminology and false promises. By subscribing to the channel, you join thousands of people who, like you, seek to live better despite Parkinson's. In addition to weekly videos with practical information based on scientific evidence, our community in the comments shares valuable experiences and offers mutual support. We've received moving messages from subscribers who have achieved significant improvements in their quality of life by applying the strategies we share, from dietary adjustments and supplements to specific exercises for each symptom. We're not promising miracles, but rather practical tools for small and large daily victories that, combined, transform the experience of living with Parkinson's. If this resonates with you, click the subscribe button now. It's free and can be the first step toward discovering new possibilities for your well-being. Remember that knowledge is a powerful tool, and we want to share that with you every week. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you in our next video. Take care of yourself and never forget, you are not alone on this journey.